Hi, this is Megan McElroy reporting you from News 5. It's finally time for the important day in history. I'd like to welcome an expert on this subject into the newsroom. Please give a round of applause for Olivia King. Woo!
Yeah!
Let's get a slow clap started.
Hello, Megan, and thank you for having me.
Oh, you are very welcome. As you know, today marks the 35th anniversary of Walter White's death.
Yes, tragic. One of the greatest members of the NAACP died 35 years ago today. But today, we can celebrate his memory.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
As an expert, I'm assuming you'd be the best person to give us insight about his life.
Yes, I'd love to. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have about him. Do you have any specific
In
questions?
fact, I do. Before you arrived, I asked people in the newsroom if they had any questions. One person was wondering how his childhood was and where he grew up.
That is a very good question, Megan. Well, to start off, Walter White was born July 1st in 1893, and he grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, with his parents and 6 siblings. Yeah. His parents were both born as slaves, but were granted freedom later in their life.
Ooh, praise.
Yes, praise. In 1906, Walter's family's home was almost destroyed.
Oh, that's
Due to race riots. But that's what pushed him in the interest of granting African Americans their rights.
Thank you. I think that answers that question very well. Moving on. Another question we had was, what drove him to wanting to be a part of the NAACP? Oh, I got that wrong, but whatever.
That's another very good question, Megan. One reason that Walter was interested in getting African American rights was that his parents were both slaves, like I said before. Another thing was that the race riots that were beginning to take over the city that he called home. Ooh, not good.
Well, it sounds like he was a very driven young man.
He really, really was. Walter White was a man with a plan.
Ooh.
He wanted to get rights for African Americans so that everybody could be equal, and he wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted.
Oh, really? What was his actions to get what he wanted?
Well, White first made his way being the executive secretary of the NAACP, and then used his power to look into more than 40 lynchings and 8 race riots. After seeing all of that tragic violence, White made it a goal to pass an anti-lynching law. However, his attempts were in vain. Not good. Southern senators crushed the law, and therefore it was not a success.
Ooh. Well, did anything he did help lynchings and race riots?
Actually, it did. Although his anti-lynching law wasn't passed, his involvement of the investigations of these problems helped with the number of lynchings overall in the South. Yeah.
Ooh. Well, that's great. Is there anything else that you think we should know about Walter White? Maybe some cool facts or something.
Yeah, no problem. I'd be happy to give you some fun facts about him.
Ooh.
So first off, many people thought that Walter White was actually white
Ooh.
due to the fact that he had blonde hair and blue eyes. Although Walter was only 1/8 African American, he was still considered black. However, he used his appearance to infiltrate many of the Southern lynching groups. Not a bad idea.
What a smart man.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting, to be honest. And when I first saw him, I thought he was, Caucasian as well. One thing I wanted to ask about was his writing. Do you know anything about that?
Of course I do, Megan. I'm the expert after all.
True.
Walter had a passion for writing since he was little, and much of what he wrote about was his passion for fighting for African American rights. Yeah. After he died, he was actually inducted into the Georgia Writers Hall of Fame.
Well, that's actually good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, that was very interesting. And to wrap up, could you tell us and the audience how Walter White died?
It's tragic. It's truly tragic. But Walter passed away from a heart attack after several years of worsening health. He didn't go easy. He fought. He passed away in New York in 1955 at the age of 61.
How tragic.
It's
Well, anyways, that concludes today's History of the Day.
Thank you for having me, Megan.
Peace out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.